Welcome to another episode of the Wood Couture podcast, the incredible Indian designer series. Today we are recording live at the Andaz Hotel in Aero City, New Delhi, and we have the absolute privilege and honor to welcome a true legend, the one and only Nilanjan Bhowal.
Thank you, Eka. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me over.
Fantastic. The man behind Design Consortium, and we're going to hear all about it. But first of all, we're very curious. When did you discover that architecture is for you?
Well, it's interesting. When I was in school, uh, there was this uncle of mine. I used to love making things, uh, work with wood or paper, make some cardboard houses. I would look at something and try to make things out of clay. And I, he once asked me, "What do you want to become?" So I said, "I want to become an engineer." Because back then, 1980s, there were only two professions that we knew. One was either medicine, either you become a doctor or an engineer. So he said, "No, you should become an architect." I said, "What is that?" He said, "Engineers design bridges and roads. Architects design buildings. You should design building." That stuck in me. So when I came to 12th, when we had to decide whether I take science or whatever, 10th, I said, okay, I would like to be an architect. And again, back then it was still, that profession was coming up in the 80s. I'm talking about 1983, 84. And so I said, I want to be an architect. At that time, I did not know it would be such a serious work and require so much of hard work. And so it stuck on. And then I joined architecture, but no regrets. I really love what I do.
Yeah. In your early part of the education, you did your undergraduate and then you went to Belgium for your master's. How was your experience?
So I did two post-graduations in architecture. So one, I went to Turkey. I was in Istanbul for a year and it was transformative. For me, earlier, India was the world, of course, steeped in history, a lot of contextual work, heritage. And when I went to Turkey, also that was an eye-opening thing. That's also a very old culture, a different climate. Here we design primarily for the hot part of the year, and over there they design for the cold part of the year. So it was a totally different experience. Then I did my second master's in architecture. I went to Belgium, and that was in urban design and human settlements. The good thing was it was an international program funded by the UNCHS. So it was a very different kind of exposure. And I went more to Belgium because I wanted to study in Europe and not in US. During that time, a lot of my friends went to US, but I said, no, I want to be in Europe because I wanted to travel. And I think I learned more from my traveling in during those days than my college. I went to Italy driving at that time, Germany, France, Spain, Portugal by road. And I was a student, and that was my continued learning. I think that was what was most useful rather than the college education.
Alongside your journey, as a student and as a professional, have you had a mentor or somebody you were looking up to?
So I had, a teacher who was from Kerala, from South, right in the beginning. He was an artist, but a very sensitive artist who guided me how to become a more humane person, how to respect nature. And because I used to, go back to my hometown in Calcutta during the vacations, I would play in the wet earth. In Calcutta it rains a lot. Football is a national sport, like for Italy, and that smell of wet earth, it still kind of makes me nostalgic. So that brought me very close to nature and all that. And this mentor of mine, he always used to push, and he, being an artist, he was very sensitive, and I think that really started my education, where when it came to the practice and I had to decide what domain I would work in, I decided to, work in sustainability and biophilic design, which are terms which have now come in. But I have always learned that is the only way to build that. And I have always said that, designing is nothing but placing a habitat in nature. You have to live in consonance with nature.
It's interesting because, you know, it's one of your famous, sentencing. Design is nothing but putting, the habitat in nature. You're very consistent, as a, in your practice. And
Because I feel human beings have evolved in nature, and there's a symbiotic relationship with nature, which people knew intrinsically in our villages, our old people, previous generations. But as we have grown, started living in cities, we've forgotten that. A very simple fact is that a plant produces oxygen, which we breathe, human beings breathe, and we produce carbon dioxide when we breathe out, which the plant uses during its process of photosynthesis. The plant absorbs carbon dioxide, it needs carbon dioxide for living, and it gives out oxygen. And we need oxygen to breathe in and give out carbon dioxide. So that relationship has been there right since the world came into existence. So once we respect that ecological interdependence, I think humans will be healthy. So building our houses, if we can bring in more nature inside our house, water, the smell of fresh air, light, natural light, I think that creates wellness in itself. And that is what architecture is about.
what is the best business advice your mentor gave you?
Uh, so he told me business advice, since you said, he said one thing. If you work 1 hour before and 1 hour after your competition does, you can beat them. So like if someone works from 9 to 5, you start working at 8 and you stop working at 6 or 7, you will always beat them. So that has been my principal guiding principle, because when I went into architecture, still I was, not knowing what architecture involved. In my class, I remember there were, out of a batch of 40, there were about 25 boys and girls who were children of architects. Some of them have been on your podcast here also. So I was way down on the list. And I figured out the only way I could come up with them. They already knew what architecture was. They had worked in their dad's offices. They had seen a drawing. They were working with clutch pencils on the first day, and we had rotring pens. I had never used them. I was working with a wooden pencil, and I knew the only way I could beat them was that I would work harder and longer than them. So that thing that my mentor told me. So by God's grace, I was the gold medalist of my batch, and I had the distinction of getting the,
Wow.
in all the batches.
Fantastic. So, going back to sustainability, because in the last few days, I interviewed a lot of your colleagues and friends, and I was shocked to learn that some of them says, in the last 5 years, a lot of clients they ask for it in terms of they drop the word sustainability of eco design into that. But then eventually, it's because, you need to tick a box. There is no conviction that it does really, do something good. So what's your experience of it? Is the industry doing enough to push sustainability in the design?
See, the industry is there. A lot of products have come up. The industry has been responding. But I think where we lack as designers, as architects, is we have to work hard to sensitize our clients. The clients may use the word sustainability, but they do not understand what it really means. So for me, sustainability is a way of life. I have to live sustainably also. I have to believe in it. My work, it's not only the architecture, how I conduct myself, that has to be sustainable. It's not only using a particular material. And if you design correctly, using the right materials, which are contextually relevant, socially relevant, which are climatologically correct, geographically, topographically correct, it is bound to be sustainable. So in all our architecture that we've done over the years, we've only used local artisans. We've used local technology subconsciously. We don't have to think about it, but and it is automatically sustainable. I think the responsibility is that of the designer to sensitize the client, and most clients will accept it, unless, yes, there is a certain section of maybe people who believe that sustainable things are not luxurious. They want that luxury tag in what they do. But now, even in luxury, there is a terminology called sustainable luxury, because even big luxury brands have realized that using that tag helps, because clients are conscious not only in the end product, but how it is produced in the whole process, where the material is procured to its production, the cycle it goes through. Is the process sustainable? Are the people who are engaged, are they working ethically? So all that goes into sustainability. So I think now the world is very, very conscious. And today I was in a forum with some real estate developers, very big developers of the country. And I was surprised that all of them are now using the word sustainability. They are saying that is the future. Designing ecologically is the future. But as architects, we've always done that. For us, that was the only way to build. And I think with the energy crisis and now with the advent of technology and everything, it's making things easy with AI tools. We can, I think, design much more easily. The client is much more conscious. He's well traveled, well aware. 20 years back, when we started our professional practices, they were not so conscious. Now they are very well traveled and they know about all these things. They see a good product, they see how living in nature and other civilizations, how they have grown and they are living sustainably.
Is it a myth that sustainability is expensive to build?
Uh, well, it's not expensive, sustainability as such, because again, uh, it's all about sourcing the material, uh, the embodied energy of the material, but building green. Now, green is a one aspect of sustainability. If you want to design a green building, that becomes a little more expensive, because we go in for double glazing, we go in for energy efficient lighting, we go in for a lot of products which are produced in sustainable manner. So it increases the cost by about 10%. We have to install solar systems. So all those things become a little expensive, about 10% more. But then that is a huge saving. The energy saving that you do, you recover that cost over the, maybe in 5-6 years, and then your building runs free of cost. We've designed some net zero buildings, like we designed that was India's first 5-star rated green building. There's a TERI organization which rates the buildings, and we created, that was a pilot project for TERI. It's a 5-star, and then we went on to design another one which is a platinum rated green home. First one in North India that's rated by IGBC, which gets a certification from the US Green Building Council. So there, the client had to be again sensitized, told that yes, it's going to cost 10%, or maybe some products will be 15% more expensive, and it takes longer. Of course, we have to detail, source out things, but a lot of recycled products that we use, that saves the cost. All the wood was recycled. A lot of bricks were old bricks that were reused into the building. So we saved a little cost there, but average, I would still say it was maybe 10% more. But it paid back in about 5-6 years, that extra expenditure. Now that house, it generates its own water, it generates its own power, it recycles all the waste, and they're very happy.
So, since you mentioned home, how was the experience of designing Uttar Pradesh house, the Dal
The
residence?
Dhal residence, okay, so that's a very interesting example. This gentleman is a very big industrialist and comes from this,
25,000 square feet house. He cannot be a small guy.
and but the good thing was he was willing to listen. He's very well traveled. He's an exporter. He makes accessories and products for, IKEA and all these brands. They're very big. And when they came to us, they said, we'd like to have a home which looks like a home. This should be luxury, but it should not shout luxury. So we decided to use a lot of Indian stones, some Italian, because only some areas of the living rooms are that. but a lot of it was using Indian stones materials. It has got solar, it recycles the water, recycles all the waste. They're growing their own products, the vegetables and everything. So now, so I had to be with them and tell them that, you start making a life change, and this is how it will bring about a certain kind of wellness in the whole family. So now they quite like the house. It's at the same time, there is a lot of technology in the house because the lighting is controlled by sensors. So that's where the cost was high. But in that house, the cost was not a factor because he had no budget. He said, go ahead. But we saved a lot of things, and it was very satisfying because it looks very earthy. It's luxurious at the same time in terms of the detailing. Or if you see this hotel, also this wall, this stone here is an Indian stone, the stone that is cladded, and it has a rough texture. So sometimes how you detail the material, how you use it, can make it look very nice instead of using an expensive material but saving on workmanship. So most of our projects have a high level of detailing, lighting, the joineries, how we join wood and a stone and a metal. All that is very important, and we are using local artisans to build that.
This magazine, they were featuring your project, the Dal residence, and the title was "Setting the Big Standard for Sustainability in a Modern Home."
Yeah.
I think you describe it beautifully, but that title really give credit to the hard work you done. Because I look at the picture, it was amazing. It's like, wow.
It's totally sustainable. All the water is recycled, all the waste is recycled. And there comes a certain amount of responsibility, not just on us. A lot of credit goes to the owners of the house, the Dals, that they are giving back to the community. They're giving back to nature, to the universe, and for the future generations. I think it's a responsibility to leave a beautiful world when we go. We inherited a beautiful world from our grandfathers, from our parents. So we should leave back a beautiful world and not something that our children are not happy about.
For the long term. Yeah, you mentioned technology, and the younger generation right now, particularly in architecture, it seems to be, one of the industries that embracing more this, talking about artificial intelligence. How do you feel about this chapter?
So I'm not an intelligent person, so I've never been bothered about artificial intelligence. I tell my friends, so for people who are very intelligent, maybe they are a little scared or insecure about artificial intelligence. It does not bother me, but yes, a lot of our future work will be AI enabled. I will not say that artificial intelligence can govern a profession because it's eventually a tool. When CAD came up, AutoCAD came up, drawing tool, people said, okay, architects will be redundant, no one will be drafting. When a lot of these softwares came up, but uh, it cannot replace the human thinking, the human mind, the intellect.
The creativity.
Yes, creativity cannot be. So technology and creativity always have to go together to give a good design. So intelligence is different from knowledge. So intelligence can be enabled through someone else, but knowledge is something very inherent. Creativity is very inherent. So it will not, AI is only a tool that will help all designers from all domains to work better, and the products that we design will be better detailed. There's a larger integration of information that it will do, but all the commands have to be given by us as humans to get a good product, because it is only, again, artificial intelligence only gathers information from different sources and puts it together for you as a solution. It cannot innovate. It is only human beings which can innovate. So innovation will have to be done by an architect. The AI will only be a tool to enhance that, I feel.
You still sketching with the
Oh
pencil
yes,
or
oh yes. It's always with a
no
hand.
stylus on the iPad?
No, no. It does not give that feel, that 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 tactile feel of holding a wooden pencil, especially. and that brush with a paper is very different from a stylus and a touchpad. It's not the same.
There is people in the industry that reckon we are living in an age of visual congestion. Pinterest, Instagram, Facebook, you name it. And the young generation, the young architects that come in, they can't think anymore. How do you feel about things like Pinterest and so forth?
So they are purely visual, like you said, but my architecture is multisensorial. My design is not visual at all. For me, if my architecture has to respond to all the five senses. Unfortunately, a lot of designers have given too much importance to only the visual part of it, that it has to look beautiful, only the eyesight. But the humans have five senses: hearing, smell, taste, and touch. So I feel a good design must respond to all these five senses. Only then it is complete. And then it is visually beautiful also. So my architecture will always have some auditory aspects. You will hear a water through it. It's part of all my projects. There has to be some water element. The breeze will come in. You will hear, you can smell because of, the kind of, not just landscaping. Like I said, I grew up in Bengal, and I played a lot with earth. So that smell still, I do not know if you like that smell of wet earth when it rains. It's beautiful, that smell, the first rains. So in our projects, we bring in the nature. There's a courtyard in the house or in every project. But if you have a project which has only stone flooring everywhere, there's no way that you have earth where you can have water falling on it or you can't see it. So it has to appeal to your hearing also, and the tactile, the touch is very important. So all these senses in a good piece of architecture uh, is very important. So I think Pinterest and all these tools, uh, Facebook and all these images are purely uh, addressing only one sense of the human beings. They don't address the other four senses. For me, it's not really so important because my architecture, it surrounds a human being with all the five senses.
That's a good perspective, actually. I never thought about it, the five senses.
You'll see everywhere, any architecture that you feel, and it's subconsciously experienced. You don't have to think about it. You go to the beautiful, palaces, forts in Italy also, the churches. You see this huge door of the church and this the brass handle, which is held over centuries and centuries, and it's polished. There's a glossy polish on it, and you want to touch it. That is because it arouses that feeling of taste. There is an architectural historian called Johanni Palasma, and he uses a beautiful quote. He says, when your eyes want to touch and your hands want to taste, that is really a good design. When your eyes want to touch and your hands want to taste, that's arousing your olfactory senses, the auditory senses. So eyes are not purely visual. It can when it entices you to touch something. So I think that is actually the actual architecture which has been there. People don't consciously see it, but subconsciously, whatever looks beautiful to you. Why do you think the churches look beautiful? It's the sound, that chiming, the bells, the grand piano, everything. So and the space, the light that comes in, that mysterious little light. It's not a lot of lighting. It's all natural light in a church. So. And anything that appeals to all the five senses, that will automatically be visually beautiful.
Since we are in a very deep conversation, I like your perspective, and I want to ask you about something. I'm a great believer there is only two civilizations on the planet. In the context of design, you have principle that nobody has. So the guys in China, Hong Kong, and there, they're Feng Shui, and you guys have Vastu. And nobody talks, or maybe they don't use it. Why is it?
Talking about?
Yeah, they seem to, I heard there is a myth that when an architect talk about Vastu, it seems, there is a mystic side and there is a scientific side. Scientific side is for the air, the fire, the water, and so forth. The mystic side is the nonsense side. People will go beliefs. So not many people actually put it at the forefront saying, we are people that we design with the principle of us do, whatever we do. And which I believe in it, I'm a great believer in that.
Yes. So actual Vastu is very scientific. This Vastu that came about, not the Vastu which is currently being followed. Vastu, what actually traditionally means is that it is a response to the climate, the context, the topography, everything. So whatever is true to that is also Vastu justified. Now you see the origins of Vastu when they came about, and the Vastu of the north of India will be very different from the Vastu in the south, because it responds to the climate and everything. So basically, if you see why these Vastu principles came about, because there's a particular wind direction. So they would say that, okay, your toilets are not on the southwest side, on the northeast, because the wind direction is from the southwest, the coast is on the southwest, and that drives the breeze from the toilets away from the house. So that is how the Vastu principles arrived. These days, people, follow it blindly. That's the non-contextual Vastu, that people feel that the same Vastu should apply to every house. That's not true. If you design respecting the climate, the local topography, I think the directions, lighting, I think that will be Vastu compliant. And Feng Shui is also very scientific, because China also has evolved over centuries, one of the earliest civilizations. And of course, their principles are different, but again, relevant to that place, their climate. While the Indian subcontinent, our Vastu, there are still Vastu Gurukuls. I've been to some of them in South India. But the Vastu here that we follow in the north should be very different. And what we follow in the south of India, that is very different. And there are schools of Vastu, they are called Gurukuls, Vastu Shilp Gurukuls, which are still there. They still teach the traditional practices. Even the temple architecture was governed by them, which was a reflection of the cosmos. In Vastu, there is something called Vastu Purusha Mandala. You can read about it, very interesting. There is all temple architecture is designed based on those principles. There is a center, which we call Garbhagriha. Now, Garbh in Hindi actually means the womb. Okay. So, the center of the temple, which is considered the center of creation. And if you see, the womb is the center where creation takes place, the human beings. So, the center of a temple is called the Garbhagriha. That's where the deity is kept, the god is kept. And it's a dark place usually. It does not get any light. You will see where the god is if you've gone to a temple, because the most important part, the center of creativity, is not where everything is. It can be something where there is nothing. That makes that space very sacred and important, because that's where the entire creation comes from. So the whole basis of that Vastu Purusha Mandala, which we call, was based on also the cosmic principle that, and the townships, there are entire townships, if you go to the south, they are designed on these principles.
So even in urban planning it can be applied.
Yes, entire towns. Srirangam, very beautiful town. You should visit that. Beautiful. You will have the central part having the biggest temple, the main temple. Then there is an outer circle where there are the priests who stay. Then there are traders. Then gradually, because the Indian society had, was segregated into castes and communities, and they were related to the professions they did. And on the outer periphery, the whole town is based on these 7, 8 different rings. And it's a reflection of the cosmos. It's this earth is the sun is the center of the universe, and the rest of the planets revolve around it in different circles. And this is what holds it together.
I spent 13 years trying to find I read a thesis from an architecture graduate on Vastu. That on the application of the Vastu principle, this lady had to believe that the building will have a better performance. And I took that and tried to find two hotels next to each other and looking if one was designed with international brand and one designed with the Vastu principle. And I was convinced that the one designed with the Vastu principle, only by the feeling good factor the people experience, will have a better financial performance than the other one.
Absolutely.
I don't have evidence yet.
No, it is logical.
It's a pursuit of a belief.
A very simple thing that there is in Vastu, there are two terms. It's called Gaumukha and Shermukha. I'll explain it. Gaumukha means something that is narrow in the front. It's like the face of a cow, right? Shaped like this, narrow in the front, and the back is wider. Now, they say that is good for a residence. Why it does not explain, but I'll tell you why. And then it says Shermukha means tiger-faced, where the head is big, body is smaller, right? In the cow's case is the other way around. So they say that a Shermukha plot, which is a tiger-faced plot, which is wider in the front, is better commercially. Now, that is very logical if you think any commercial building which has a wider frontage will get more visibility, right?
Yeah, more footfall.
More footfalls.
Yes.
And something that is like this, it's more inviting that you go in as a house. It widens, your perspective widens, it's more comfortable at the end, you come in through a narrow entrance. So that's a simple logic. So if a house makes you feel happy, if a commercial property also, if it has more light, more ventilation, better acoustics, it's well designed, it again appeals to all the senses, I think it will automatically be more financially successful.
We had a free lecture today from a master. It's incredible. Now, talking about hospitality, I saw you done a lot of work with Sinclair Resorts and how was your experience on those projects?
Very interesting, because that was very interesting. This group, Sinclair's, they had 3-4 properties in the northeast part of Bengal, Shiliguri, Chalsa, Darjeeling. Then we designed their resort in Port Blair also in the Andamans. And they would buy off a hotel which was not doing well and then renovate it and turn around. And there is a community in India called Marwaris. They're very astute business people. And there was great learning working with them, because they bought off properties which are not doing well, and then they would renovate and run it in a very efficient way. And their head, Mr. Sushanti, very astute gentleman, businessman, he would tell me, Nilanjan, okay, now we want to use these tiles. What do you suggest? So I would say, wait, I'll design it. Look up different samples, brands which are available. He said, no, I will provide you the tiles. You will come with me and I will tell you how to design. And this is a challenge for you. I said, okay, tell me. So he said he would go to all the tile factories or brands and ask them to give him tiles which were not sold over the last 10-15 years. So all companies have this waste stock, something they produced but did not sell. And they actually destroy it after some time. They crush it and use that soil. So he would go to them and tell them that whatever is unsold stock over the last 10-15 years, I want to buy that. And he would buy them at 1/10 the price. The problem was they were from different brands, so they would be in different sizes. Some were, let's say, 450 by 450, some were 500 by 600, some were 1 meter by 1 meter. He would say, now I've got so much quantity of so many different tiles. Now use your creativity and give me a design where this looks good.
Wow.
And that was an amazing learning. And we did that. It was a big exercise, but it was an exercise in intuition, in geometry, in design, and trying to fit in, make patterns out of it. And we did it at 1/10 the price that I would have normally done. And it's a fantastic thing. He said another thing. So there was Chalsa, Darjeeling, and Siliguri, 3 hotels within 50 kilometers of each other. And he had only one general manager. He said, why should I keep 3? The same person can be in the morning in one hotel. In the afternoon, he goes to the second one. In the third, he goes in the evening. He stays overnight. Next day, he does it the other way around. What a brilliant thought. And, he would keep the staff minimal. And that was a huge amount of learning about processes. Firstly, about design, which I learned with tiles and things. Secondly, about processes. He would say, okay, my housekeeping. So he would hire, because those were remote areas, he would hire a family where husband and wife can work together. The husband looks after, the front desk and other things, admin. The wife looks after the housekeeping, which is ideal. And another couple where the wife looks after maybe general maintenance and the husband is the chef. So it's easier for them to accommodate those people. They live in as families. They are much more dedicated, and that hotel within 2 years, it was back in profit.
So you basically beautifully described how to engineering value, rather the value engineering.
Yes.
Is incredible.
That
now.
was a huge learning in Sinclair, since you mentioned, and I remember this, how nicely it was done. And they came out very well, all these properties. They're doing very well still. And that was huge learning.
How do you feel when a client comes to you and you design beautiful design, you spend hours thinking, focusing, and doing all the beautiful things of this planet, and they say, Nilanjan, we need to value engineer?
Yeah, I always have taken that as a challenge. I've been very open to criticism also, because there's always some learning in the client's feedback, because eventually they are going to be users. And all my work is very participative. I don't come from a high pedestal that I am the designer and you are the client. I take it that they are, and today they are very well traveled, they're well aware, they're knowledgeable, sensitive. Some of them are doing their second home or a third home, so they know what they want. When they want value engineering, yes, it becomes a little cumbersome challenge, but it's a huge learning for us. And I think we should be open to that, because the future is working in collaboration with the industry, with the artisans, with the clients, the architect, and not just the architect. There is a team of designers. We love working in teams. There are consultants, there's a landscape architect, there's an engineer, there's a PMC firm. So everyone's input goes in, because each one is a specialist in his domain now. And that, I think, makes the project much more vibrant, much more beautiful, and much more sustainable.
Some of your colleagues, and I quote because I need to give him credit, Vivek Gupta, he's saying, unlike fashion designer, everybody know who they are in India, but within the fraternity and within conferences, we all know each other. The moment we step out, nobody recognizes us. So, but I see out there that there is the first few cases where a building sold bearing the name of the architect, so put in the brochure, that guy designed that, carry a healthier price. Do you think India start getting the way to recognizing that people like you, they are, have your style, your approach, your experience, awards, and mastery, should command a higher price of the selling the building?
So I understand where Vivek is coming from, and he's very true that if you ask a common person to name 10 fashion designers, he will be able to name the top 10 designers. Even by designer, if you ask him to name 10 topmost lawyers, they will be able to name. But if you ask the common man, give you the name of 10 top architects, they will not be able to. Because we are not in the news. We've not branded ourselves architects. We are not out there. We are not, I would say, could call it branding, or we've not professed our profession. We've not gone out in the social media as much. It's very, very recent that we've started, talking about our work. I still cannot talk about my work too much. I mean, I feel the work should talk about you. That's how architects and all designers feel. While the other professions have been out there in social media, in social forums, they are represented. And that is because they are in the news. So people know about them. What Vivek says is true. And why they are in the news is also because they command a certain kind of importance because of the, I won't say technicality, because of the uh, sensitivity of their profession. Let's say the doctor. Often the doctors in India go on a strike. All the hospitals collapse. The medical profession collapse. They want higher wages. The government comes in and the negotiation. The lawyers, they go on a strike. They close the court for a week and everything is a mess. Cases pile up. The government runs in. If the architects go on a strike, nothing happens. I mean, no one.
Client change architects.
It will not make a difference to people. So, how does it affect? And the other reason I personally feel is that when you go to a doctor, you're already in a stress. You're in a bad state, right? You would give any amount of money to get cured. You can't do that yourself. Or when you go to a lawyer, you're already in a stress. You are in mental disorder. You're trying to get out of a situation. Now, when you go to an architect, the guy who comes to an architect is rich. He got money in his pocket. He can dictate the terms whom he wants to go to. So that's my personal analysis that why other professions, they command a lot of higher fees because of what the kind of thing to do. But having said that, I think there's a lot of growing awareness among clients. And these days, clients do look up. They always study. They look at references. They look up your work. They talk to people. They see something nice. They go and ask, who is the architect? We've had clients who've come in. They've walked into some building which was made fairly long ago. And they have asked that architect, the owners for a number and contact number and got back to us because they liked it and they said, yes, we want that particular kind of design. So people have become conscious about design and that they know good design makes a difference, a good architect makes a difference. So they do come searching. I think most of us, everyone that you've spoken to, has created a niche for himself in the industry. And people do look out for them and reach them when they want that particular type of design.
Of all the projects you've done, and I'm sure they're all unique, I have no doubt. From the passionate way you're talking, I mean, I have no doubt. But are there projects that you say, wow, I'm really proud for that? For whatever reason, not necessarily a design, but like the challenge you just describing or the Sinclair resorts, where, here we go. And then tell me about one example there.
Maybe two, not one.
Yeah, please.
So one was, I would definitely say there is something in Kashmir called Pahalgam Club. Now, that came up in 2010. We started working on it and we were invited to design. There were 5 architects all over the country and this was a design competition. And we won that award of that project because this club was on the edge of this river. And it's a fast flowing river throughout the year. And this was a government tourism project. And we diverted the river to flow through the club and made it join back the river. So the whole idea was as a concept that from every part of the club today, if you go, you can hear the water. Like I said, my architecture appeals to all the senses. So you can hear the water, that stream of water, and it's a clear stream of water, fresh water, with the snow melting throughout the year. So that project, of course, the advantage was because it was a government project, we could get permission to, divert the river and then make it join the river. So the water was not wasted at all. And because of the sloping site, we created small cascades, retention ponds and detention ponds. So the water flows over several ponds and the entire architecture is quite contemporary, but we took influence from the local Kashmiri architecture. So they have certain technology where they use these wood bracings and exposed brick. There's no plaster used in that project at all. So all the architecture is exposed brick, sloping roofs which reflect the mountains beyond. We got several awards for it and it was inaugurated by the Chief Minister at that time. And why that is special is that it was built over a long period of 7-8 years because about 4 months of the year it's covered with snow, 6-7 feet of snow. And then another 2 months, because it passes there's a religious procession called Amarnath Yatra. It passes through Pahalgam, so that site would be closed. And I was working at a period of, insurgency in Kashmir, and I would get a lot of security and all that. Going through all that challenges, seeing firing around, getting that security and armed guards, traveling with them. There was a little bit of a scare, but that is why the project is very special. It came out very beautiful, so much so that there are so many of my friends who, without knowing, they visit it and they call me up from there and they say, that's the biggest satisfaction. Or even bureaucrats who've gone and seen that from other states, because it's a very popular destination there. It's like the India Habitat Center of that place. It has a huge conference center, there are residential areas, there's a club, bar, restaurant, everything. So they call me and they congratulate me. I think that is the biggest satisfaction. If the user, it's not an architect who appreciates. Mostly we talk about our work, we get awards given by other architects, but when the end user calls up and says, yeah, you've done a good project, I think that's the biggest satisfaction for us. And the second one, if you have time, I think there's this project in Manipur, in northeast, extreme northeast. And this was a terracotta temple that's made of mud bricks, fired mud bricks. Now, terracotta is when you fire brick to a certain temperature, it becomes like porcelain. It's very strong. And the roof of that temple had collapsed over subsequent earthquakes and all that. And it was so much so that the people had taken the deity, the god, out of the temple. They'd stopped praying. Now, this was a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and there was a competition again, and we were invited by India ICOMOS. And so we studied all the brickwork, and there are about 16 different shapes of mud bricks that were used. Now, the good thing was that this technology is still there in India. All these artisans are still there over the centuries. Mud, terracotta as a material is there. So I had to find them, go out to the villages, get those artisans, and we rebuilt that whole temple. And now, so much so that, we decided not to use any, there is a huge dome, about 60 feet by 60 feet. And we've done it with mud bricks. Wow. And no steel. The structural engineer said, you'll have to use steel concrete. I said, no, we'll build it the way people built it earlier. Of course, that time it was made with clay, actually. So we studied a lot of things, how people built there. I went to the market and I saw the weavers. They weave this basket with cane, and they make it so strong that if you invert it, now if you see a basket, you put it upside down, it is so strong you can stand on it. Takes a lot of weight. I said, we can use this as a reinforcement. So it would be organic, wow, be natural. So we created a formwork first and used bamboo as reinforcements, and then created this mud dome, and it has been perfectly being used, and so much so that the people have brought back the god into that temple, and they are using that temple again. Wow. So that was very satisfying. Also, of course, there was insurgency at that time in Manipur. Manipur is still undergoing problems, and we had to go inside our hotel after sunset, 6 o'clock, beyond 6 or 7, we could not stay out. And so it was a difficult time, but very challenging. But I think that gives you a lot of satisfaction when the end user, is happy and you give back the building to the society where it belongs.
I was trying to figure out while you were talking if you're more scientific or you're more creative. I think you're more scientific because you're talking real science in here. You don't talk architecture, I don't think the young generation can figure out what you've been figuring out in these two projects. But,
No, I think
time will see.
Yeah, Filippo, you see, I think architecture is coming together of science, technology, and art, and human values and everything. I think that's what makes architecture beautiful, is what I feel.
I want to ask you, I'm not going to use the word retirement because, I've learned in India, there was a lady in here yesterday, she said, my mother started a business at 91. I said, oops, I have no hope of slowing down. They said, the day you're going to slow down a bit, how would you like to be remembered?
So I think I've slowed down already. I have
You
retired.
don't sound like.
I've retired, and because see, retirement, I always feel is a state of the mind, right? So I consciously cut down on work, and now I do more of community relevant projects. Um, in fact, I've been invited back to Kashmir to do the tourism master plan for the entire state, and we will work on fewer projects. And well, what one wants to be remembered is that you transformed lives. That is something very important for me. That I feel that every person I meet, every person I interact with, I should make some positive impact on his life, some transformative, even a little bit if I can do. That is useful. That's what I think I would like to be remembered as.
You certainly did with me. I can stay here talking with you for hours, and I will not get bored for sure. Is that- And so, for the people that are watching, that they will be from America to Australia, all over the world. Why are Indian designers incredible?
I think our culture, uh, our upbringing, our human values, I mean, that makes us different. When you respect your heritage uh, and your culture, your values that you're brought up with, and that is reflected in your work, I think that's why Indian designers are respected all over the world.
Final question, which is customary. So, if I take a giant white canvas and put it on top of the Burj Khalifa, so everybody can see it, it's the tallest building on the planet. What message would you write on it?
It's a tough one. What years are you there?
You can figure out how to build a dome. You cannot figure out what to ask. Come on.
I would, if it's for everyone to read, I would write that you should find out your purpose of life
It's very powerful
and
message.
work according to that, and not a goal. Goal is very different, uh, but purpose. Why are you here? It's very important to find out the purpose of your life, because that is what we create a vision for everyone to follow.
Nilanjan, thank you very much.